Good evening and welcome to the Pissed Off Parent Show. I am the Pissed Off Parent and welcome you to the show this evening. Boy, I actually had some automation set up and it didn't want to work. Let me try that again and see why it is not wanting to work here. No, it should have worked. Well, it's a live show and this is kind of what happens at times when you try to go live. Anyway, welcome to the show. We're hoping to go live first time on TikTok this evening, but as I press the go button, it did inform me that the entire process isn't set up yet. So that'll be, I guess, future show or future happening down the road. But let's go ahead and get into it. So let's just roll over to first part of this. So just kind of giving an overview, just getting through all the legal stuff and all that. Pissed Off Parent Show is a bold, no holds barred podcast dedicated to amplifying voices of frustrated, alienated parents with a strong focus on father's rights. Let's see, boy, I'm kind of throwing my mojo off this evening. Alright, so technically injustice may fathers face family courts and the emotional toll of parental alienation. The show dives deep into the personal, legal, and systemic challenges parents encounter. Also, it's a show where I can talk about things that piss me off, and it has my brand of humor, my show, kind of do things the way I want to. Of course, it would be great if the things worked the way I tested them out, but that's how it goes. I do want to let everybody know that nothing on the Pissed Off Parent Show, the website, the app, and all that fun stuff, you should be looking to it as legal advice, do your own research, come up with your own conclusions, and go from there. Also, the advice is exactly what you paid for it. Everything on Pissed Off Parent show, app, everything is free, always meant to be,
Chuck
always
says,
will be. Oh, got the first
Family
comment.
for Eternity and Chuck Dizzle here. We are excited. Sounds has a double echo. Just a heads up, sir.
Got it. Oh. Yeah, I think that's part of me setting everything up to work through TikTok. Looks like it's doing a double echo, but it shouldn't. Let's see if I can fix that while I'm going through, try to do a little multitasking. It looks like everything's working the way... Oh, I see what the issue is. There we go. That should fix the problem. Thank you, Chuck, for letting me know. All these gadgets, and there's always little things I got to fix on it and get it all ready to go. But that should have fixed the issue. Just one of those fun little things that happens on a live show. Next up here, though, is this important announcement that, I'm not an attorney. More importantly, I'm not your attorney.
Jeremy says, nice some TDS.
Yeah, I may mess with the language on it a little bit. So far, it's just kind of that plain everyday language. We'll see. Maybe I'll get a lady's voice or do something different. But yeah, it's one of those. It's fun. We'll see how it goes. But really, in conclusion, here, all this stuff that I provide, again, free of charge, is worth what you paid for it. I'm not an attorney, don't want to be an attorney, don't claim to be an attorney. This is just stuff that I have found over the years. I've been in this thing for about a decade, and I just, want to let people know kind of the information I figured out over time. Let's see here. Actually, before we jump into it, I kind of want to show off some of the stuff here. It's sad that some of it didn't work. Actually, you're seeing one of the cameras right now. It's like you go live and things want to work a little differently. Let's see if I can change that up a little bit, because now you're seeing the behind the scenes. Everything was ready to go when I set it all up, but let's see what, let's see if I can fix that on the fly. Yep, there we go. Now you can see me up front, and I can have a little bit more control over this. Also, I kind of like to show, kind of the behind the scenes, different things that I do, but let me kind of show off some of the things I've been doing here. One is I kind of call it the back cameras. I can't figure out what else to call it. It's actually kind of the back view, but you kind of see all the things that in order to put a podcast on, this is pretty much everything that has to be done in order to make that's kind of like the control center and all that. And then also I have, just if you want to, see the side view, the side profile of me, you can see that whenever you want to. But yeah, I've set up a bunch of different cameras, and I'll bet you that each one of them now doesn't actually trying to check the sources and just make sure that nothing is messed up on it. You're not getting a double echo. It sounds like that's not going to happen, so that's good. But I want to go and just kind of jump into what I have tonight. It's kind of sometimes some people say it's boring. I'll talk about. I'll say my wife is one person that finds it boring, and most people find it boring. I don't. I actually find this area really important. Something we all should be doing. It's not like 100% in the equal share of parenting movement, but it's a part of it, because things have changed with your finances, and you got to figure out a way to kind of trudge along and make things better. But with that, kind of want to jump into finances. Just some interesting facts. I like to have facts in my stuff. In case you didn't know, credit card debt is at record high now. Last year, we actually got over $1 trillion in debt. A lot of Americans are carrying those balances month to month, paying the high interest rates. I personally don't. I've always been a person that I hate credit cards, I hate credit, I hate debt in general. So I've tried my best to kind of stay out of that trap because it's it's a downward cycle. And also, when you're kind of looking at some of the stuff, if something jumps out at you or you have ideas or tips, be sure to kind of throw those in. Again, it's a very open forum. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and kind of get the algorithm going and all that fun stuff. But again, long story short, credit card debt all-time high. Of course, with the things that have been happening over the last few years, it's gotten worse, unfortunately. And this is where we're at this point. We've got to find ways to get out of debt. Next thing is, I think this should not come as a surprise to anybody, but it says here many Americans, I would say most Americans, just some of the data I've looked at, it shows that most Americans, we got here 60% of U.S. adults live paycheck to paycheck, and that includes even the higher earning people because they're getting scrunched by all the inflation and all the things that are happening. It's just becoming harder and harder, and you have to get by with less and less, and it's an unfortunate reality that a lot of us are in. Another one here, and this is, I think, a sensitive topic for those, or a lot of people, is that student loan debt is now over $1.7 trillion, which is a lot. And, without getting
Todd
too
says,
political.
When you're debt-free, your credit score goes down.
That's actually a weird thing. And, I want to, keep everything kind of focused, but that's a whole other podcast on its own, is that, the way the credit scoring system's been set up, it actually encourages you to be in debt, which is where you don't want to be. It's almost like they work together to keep you, in some kind of debt. But yeah, once you pay all your debts off, your credit score can go down. Back, I guess, about a decade or so ago, before I got involved in all of this, I was 100% debt free on my own house. I had assets, no debt at all, and my credit score was decent. But it's actually higher now that I did accumulate some debt. And it's just unfortunate that, the credit scoring system, everybody looks at you being in debt as a good thing. It's just not good. But with student debt, everyone getting their degrees, I'm trying to keep this somewhat apolitical, but people getting degrees that they end up not using, or they switch majors or decide different things, or they decide to quit after they've taken out all the loans. Unfortunately, what that's done is that's added a lot to the loan debt. And again, we're over $1.7 trillion. It's talking about here average loan debt for graduates being around $30,000. I would argue it's probably a lot higher than that. But again, that's more anecdotal. But again, student loan debt is just a horrible thing in general. This is another area that I know a lot of people are like about, but it says here 57% of Americans don't have enough savings to cover that $1,000 emergency fund, and they have to rely on credit cards. Unfortunately, this is an area that and we'll talk about ways to get out of debt. But this is one area, I don't want to say it's surprising, but it's scary that we have so many people that, if they lost their job tomorrow, or their car breaks down, or the water heater breaks, or just, life's calamities, life things that happen, that they would be on the street. They would be so far under or they have to go out and get a high interest rate credit card or loan, or use a credit card or something like that, which then starts that snowball down that path. And it's just sad that if people were to have that $1,000 or some type of emergency fund, that it would help them out. It's funny. My oldest son and I, David, he and I have just talked about that, and the $1,000, and you'll hear more about that $1,000 emergency fund later. But he's telling me that the $1,000 doesn't even cover it anymore. It's more of you need to have at least $2,000 that's over in a savings account to deal with anything that comes up. And I keep telling people prepare for that rainy day, but unfortunately people just don't do that, and it's just a sad reality that we're in. This is another one, and I don't want to, kind of ruin everybody's day, but this is just things that we need to talk about because I want to help people, and that's, we'll be talking about that later on, ways that we can help, and ways you can help yourself to get out of this. But the retirement, my wife gets tired of hearing me talking about it, but that is something that's always on my mind. I've mentioned on other shows and at other times that I wake up every morning from anywhere between 3 and 4 a.m. worrying about retirement. And it says here the average retirement for Americans, and again, more centered towards Americans for this show, between 55 and 64, I'm not there yet, is just $120,000. While that's bad, I would say there are a number of people that would be watching this that are going, "Wow, that's a lot." Unfortunately, looking at all the calculators and what's going to be happening with Social Security in the year 2035, it's just not. It's just not going to be good for a lot of people, and I'm hoping that this show, other things, kind of gets people thinking, oh, hey, you know what? I need to start saving. I need to start doing something to get myself out of the hole. Medical debt. Oh boy, this one hits kind of home for me. But 40% of U.S. adults have medical debt expenses, and unfortunately, it leads people to bankruptcy. I know this is kind of a weird thing to talk about. Again, given a number of people that are on the show and why they would even tune in, but there are so many couples nowadays that later in life, one person gets a lot of medical debt and they end up having to get divorced. So the medical company does not go after the other parent and they can actually survive. It's just sad that that's where we're at. But we have saying here 40% of adults have some kind of medical debt. I think it's no secret the issues I was having earlier this year, or the issues I thought I was having, and I had to spend a lot of money, even with insurance, to try to take care of those things. And had I not had certain emergency funds and other things ready, it could have been a bad thing. Try to hedge against those things, but a lot of Americans just aren't there, and it's just not going to look good as the population ages. Inflation. This probably should not come as a surprise to anybody, but inflation is running rampant. I mean, I hate to burst anyone's bubble again and trying to keep this as apolitical as possible, but that 2.3% number, actually I put a video out a couple weeks ago, but that's based on current information as far as where it's risen from, not the overall. We're looking at 6%. I would argue it's a lot higher. This is just kind of the national average on the official reported numbers, but I would argue it's a lot higher. It's one of those, if you don't believe me, go to the grocery store, check things out, and then let me know what you think. Housing costs. I'm here in Texas, and it has gotten redonkulous with the level of what housing costs at this point. 10, 15 years ago, housing was nowhere what it is today. Now we're talking about is roughly $400,000 national average. I mean, I'm sure if you're in California, New York, certain places like that, it's gonna be a lot more. And then other places will be a little bit less, but overall average is around $400,000, and really it's hurt the middle class, the young people starting out. I couldn't even imagine, because I think apartment complexes around this area are in I think the $1,600 range, and that's for an economy apartment that there's just with no amenities, no nothing, and trying to imagine surviving off that along with all the other bills. It's got nuts. The wealth inequality continues to grow. That's the numbers. When the bug hit and all that, and stock markets still continue to rise. Unfortunately, people that were ready for it, they actually made more money in the stock market. And while others that were struggling, who weren't able to put money into the stock market, suffered. And again, if you look at the projections, and there's a lot of information out there, we're going to be looking, especially if things don't change, at higher inflation over in the coming years. And the way to help kind of help that along, or help yourself, is to have money in the stock market, because as the stock market, inflation, all that stuff rises, you have money in it, and you can kind of go along for the ride, and it won't be as bad. Unfortunately, with the previous numbers I reported, you got people that aren't able to get into the stock market, aren't able to do anything, and unfortunately, it's going to further that gap even more. I see Todd had made a comment. For some reason, it didn't pop up, but keeping up with the Joneses. Unfortunately, that's people trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's got a lot of people where they're at today. Trying to impress everybody and get the new this and the new that and the new bells and whistles. And the people that are doing things, saving, scrimping, and stuff like that. They may get looked at, laughed at, whatever, but they're the ones that are going to win in the end. There's a book that I've given out to I don't know how many copies to people. It's a must read. Is The Millionaire Next Door, and a lot of people think the person with the big house, the brand new car, the new clothes, the new taking trips every 5 seconds, that they're the successful ones, and it's not. It's the guy that looks meager, that doesn't look like he has a lot of money out there. He's the one that's actually that's doing better. But when people look at who is successful, they don't look at those things. Who drives the 15-year-old car? Who lives in a modest home? Who lives, who doesn't have brand new designer clothes? Uncle Eddie's. If someone's out there listening, they'll get that reference. Next one up here is the maximizing retirement funds. And, we'll talk about that here in a bit. But saying here, 25% of Americans don't take full advantage of their employer's 401k match. And I couldn't say it really any better than this: leaving free retirement savings on the table. If your company does have a 401k plan and you are able to match it, and they do match it, you're leaving money on the table. So if you make, and I'm using round numbers here, I'm not trying to throw anything out there, but you make $100,000 a year, and you put 3% in, your boss matches it 3%. That's a couple $1,000. That's free money that you wouldn't have access to, and you're throwing away free money. I mean, that's just the cold hard facts of it. I know people are scrimping and saving, and they're thinking, oh no, but saving is something that you need to get into the habit of, and there's tools and ways to do that, and it's just unfortunately we're saying here 25% of Americans just aren't doing that, and it's going to come back to bite them. Okay. Kind of moving over into the cost of running a household. Some of these numbers, may apply to you. Some of them may not. But just kind of want to do a quick rundown here. Housing between $1,300 and $2,500. Utilities $300 to $400. Groceries $600 to $1,000. Transportation $600 to $1,200. Healthcare. I mean, all these expenses that you're using that you're going through every month just to keep the household going, especially with inflation. They're saying that on average your total monthly cost just to run your household is anywhere between $4,500 and $8,500 a month, which is insane. Years ago it was in the 2,000 range. Now it's doubled, and it's just gotten a lot worse. I don't know if anyone out there has other numbers that they want to throw out there that may be a little bit different. But again, this is the average. Coupling that, a lot of the folks that'll be watching either live or on the replay, they have an additional expense that others Americans don't have to deal with or worry about, and that is child support. U.S. Census Bureau estimated out there in the last time they did this is about $430 a child. So basically, on top of everything else that we're dealing with and trying to keep afloat and the business running, and keep our households running, we're spending $430 a month on average. Again, people may have more, people may have less. People may say this is lucky, they wish. Some people may be like, wow, that much. And then, you got, and again, with 80 to 90% of the women being the ones collecting it, they're the ones doing the free money, and the guys are the ones trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And it's just getting more and more difficult. And, as we all know, when you go back to court, what ends up happening is you get your child support raised, because they call it inflation. And there's just, different things there. Hopefully these numbers make sense to you. I kind of want to transition over into, how to, ways to save money. And there's a couple things to look at, or a couple different things you can do. I took some of the documented, these are the ways to do it, and then we'll talk about some other ways. But, first off is tracker spending. And this is one I can talk to, individually. I mean, I've always been, I should have attached it here, but I actually have an Excel spreadsheet that I've used for, and Brandy can, jump on here and tell me I'm lying, but I've used an Excel spreadsheet that I've modified and automated some pieces so I can just plunk the numbers in that, updates and does that. But I've used one of those for, I want to say maybe 15, 20 years. And it's amazing that when you actually document how much money you spend, and it's not, throwing shade or any blame anywhere. It's just looking at the reality. I guess I'll give you a little bit of honesty here. So we'll just say, cooking in the Ward household is a hit or miss thing. I mean, actually, tonight we went to, where we go? Golden Chick. And, I'd like to say we eat at home more often, but we don't. Well, what I did is through my bank software, I exported out how much money I was spending on DoorDash and eating out and all that, and put that into a spreadsheet and totaled it up. And that number was, I think it was $2,000 one month, and freaked me the heck out. I could not believe that I was spending that much money. I was like, oh my god, that is insane that I'm spending that much money on eating out. And I said, we got to stop, and at least being aware of those things, but getting on a budget. And it's just simple math. You find out how much you make, what's going out, where the numbers, you average out where you can, heating expenses and stuff like that, or cooling expenses and for this time of the year. And then from there, you figure out, where you're at and what you need to do in order to make things a little bit better. And there's a lot of free ones out there. I think Mint has one that you need to budget. One of the guys I'm going to talk about here in a bit, which probably everybody knows who I'm talking about, has a free service that you can get on and do that. But at the end of the day, open up Microsoft Excel, export out your bank information, and then just plot in the numbers. You can do the averaging and stuff like that. I mean, it's easy to do, and it's going to be very eye-opening, and at least gives you an idea of what you're doing. I will say that the months that I did not do the planning, those were months that I overspent. I mean, you tend to overspend when you aren't keeping an eye on those things. And I'll talk to the guys specifically, as the head of the household. It's your job to make sure that household runs and has the funds necessary. So that's one step you can take in order to make that happen. The next one here, this is where it gets into hurting. I'm going to tell a few more stories here, and they're going to be personal, and the people that I'm probably going to be talking about are going to get pissed off, and that's just on them.
Chuck says,
really don't care.
And get to pay attorney fees for not totally submitting to the tyranny. They say it's civil, not criminal, so you're stuck in limbo until child turns 18. They won't ever let you see a judge when you have your ducks in a row because they know the racket and don't have a way to control it when they are exposed. You get continuances or punished from the judge. You do not have a path to win. It is only how much you lose.
Yeah, well, that gets into those long conversations that I know we've had and I've had with others and stuff. I put on the app and the website, which, by the way, that's a good time there to talk about the app. You can go ahead and download the free app on Apple, Android, and look at the information on there and kind of start trying to do that chestnut checker stuff. Get at least some tools to work with. But back to the unnecessary subscriptions. This is one that I've had to do, and where I reduce everything down and I find out where I have duplicity. So like, I have a Walmart Plus account, and I have most of my groceries delivered because it's I think it's like $5 a month, and I don't have to go to the store, which is where I'll end up overspending. It comes with a Paramount Plus subscription, TV subscription already included, so I don't need to pay for Paramount, and essentially pays for itself. And those are decisions you can sit down and determine, hey, do I need to have this? Do you really need to have all the different subscriptions and all that stuff? And again, when you export out all of your expenses, you'll start seeing those, and some of those you may go, oh wow, I never realized I had the MySpace $5 a month charge or something like that. You'll kind of go, wait, it'll start putting some reality to it, and you can start making some decisions. But a funny story, my sister-in-law, complained a lot about not being able to, make expense or make ends meet, and how tough it was and all that. But when I got down, I started trying, I figured I'd help her out. So I did kind of the things I'm telling you, and I would say, well, you've got Disney, you've got HBO, you've got all these different, TV subscription services. Get rid of them. I mean, you shouldn't need them. Oh, well, I need this. Oh, well, I need that. And unfortunately, she didn't want to change her mind, but then she still wants to complain. But at least now I just go, in one ear and out the other, because one thing is recognizing the issues, and the other thing, dealing with reality. Then the other thing is to go ahead and take steps in order to get yourself in a better position financially. She unfortunately didn't want to, and so many others, not just her. I mean, others that I've tried to help out, they usually don't want help. They just want to complain, unfortunately. But yeah, canceling those subscription services, streaming's right out of the gate. I don't know if anyone has any magazines at all, Hooters or whatever. Get rid of those. But basically, reduce down and see, does it make sense that, if you're paying $10 a month, or you're doing different things, does it make sense? Can you change your do you have security on your phones? Are you paying for all these additional services, Uber Eats and all that? Does it make sense? And only you'll know the truth, what makes sense, and go ahead and make that decision and see how it goes. I mean, it's going to hurt probably at first, but then there's lots of other, as far as streaming services, you got, Pluto's. There's so many other free streaming services out there that you can hopefully be able to transition and not have that problem. Cooking at home, sound like a little bit of a hypocrite right now. But cooking at home is one where you learn how to cook. It is at times cheaper to do that. Depends on, of course, what you're cooking sometimes. But eating out, if anyone's been doing the DoorDash and the Uber Eats and all of that, or at least went out, it's very expensive to eat out. And I know it's a treat, but it's something that, that if you were to look at your expenses and see how much money you're spending, and if you're spending, like I was, $2,000 a month in eating out, it's time to make a change. It's time to make a change and try something different. Try to learn how to cook, or do the bologna and cheese kind of thing, and do that. Cashback and coupons. Hopefully if you're in a situation you're not spending money, but if you are, look for coupon opportunities, look for cashback, look for different things. I personally use and this is a double-edged sword, but I've been using a website for maybe 15-20 years called slickdeals.net, and that's an aggregator site where when you go there, you can type in what you want and it'll tell you who online or wherever has the best deal on what you're looking for. And you can go ahead and try that. Of course, Rakuten, I can't never say it right. Honey, another app, half and half on that one. But hopefully you're not spending too much money on other things. But you want to do some couponing or look for ways to do things a little bit cheaper. Reducing your utility costs is another one. Here in Texas, it gets hot. I'll be honest. Our electric bill last month was almost $700. Which is crazy, and so I try to find different ways to reduce those energy bills. I would say I unplug my electronics, but my entire house is nothing but electronics, so kind of hard for me. It's an area that I'm like, whatever. And but those are things that in your situation where you would look at it and go, you know what, maybe I don't need to have this, or I can bump my air conditioner up, or I don't have to have the lights outside 24/7. I'm talking to you, Mrs. Ward. But different things you can do to reduce your utility costs. Put some insulation in. I put film on all of our windows to reduce the direct sunlight coming in. I went around, I bought a little $5 heat gun tester or whatever to see where I was losing heat. Put in, try to do different things to reduce my energy costs. So that's an area that you can look at to hopefully make things better. This next one, refinance and consolidating debt. This is a double-edged sword, to be perfectly honest. To give you guys an idea of my background, I used to be a debt collector, and back in the early 90s, and so I dealt with a lot of people that had various kinds of credit card debt, student loan debt. Actually, I used to collect on child support. Go figure. What a little irony there. But I researched a lot with the consolidation, pulling them into one payment, and looking at the figures. While I'm not a big fan of recommending this, because what ends up happening is people will get all of their credit card bills, consolidate them into a loan, and then with a lower interest rate, which on the surface sounds good, but what ends up happening is they go, oh wow, I've got freedom. They haven't learned anything. They haven't felt the pain, and then they go out and charge on the credit cards they just paid off, or well, consolidated. Then they go back out and do it again. And the research shows that the overwhelming majority of people that get consolidation loans don't learn their lesson and get right back into debt. Actually, worse than, because and on top of introducing credit card debt and the other debts that they got in trouble with in the first place, they now have a consolidation loan on top of it, and it just never works out. I'm more of a fan of a snowball, which we'll talk about here in a bit, but only you know for sure if a refinance or consolidation loan would make the most sense. And then also with refinances, that would be implied, the home refinance or getting a HELOC or something like that. I've always just had a mental issue with, I'm going to take unsecured debt and convert it into a secured debt that if I'm unable to pay it, I would lose my house. So I don't know. I've always just people talk about it and think, oh, it's great. I'm just not a huge fan of it, to be honest. But again, I just want to get the information out there. Y'all are free to do whatever. Buying secondhand. Although, I'll be honest, getting stuff on Craigslist, Facebook, Marketplace, eBay, it's always a way to find cheaper ways to purchase things. And actually, most of the things that I have are from either secondhand stores or something like that. I'm using a device here to control a lot of my automation. I searched for that one for over a year, and I saved I think $80, $90 on it off the retail price, or off the best price I could find outside of it, by buying it used, and it works just fine. So ways to do that. I would spend time on Marketplace and all that to buy things that you have to have, or a true kind of a need for you. Limiting impulse purchases, and this is a hard one for a lot of people. Most people, they love that. Again, today you can pick your phone up, click a button, have food delivered in 20 minutes. You can have, we were going to send, Christmas cards to our Amazon delivery driver. I get it, but limiting the impulse purchases, where you sit there and you're like, oh, I want to get the latest whatever, or the greatest this, and maybe sitting down and going, you know what, I am not going to make any decisions on purchases above a certain dollar amount without doing a mandatory 1 day kind of a cool down period. Does it still make sense? That's always just something to think about when you're getting ready to buy something. Negotiating bills. That's another one where you call up your internet provider, your cell phone provider, the different services that you have, and say, hey, is there any programs? I'm thinking about leaving you. So and so, they will offer me a better deal, and taking that time out to call through those different companies and seeing if they can lock you into a better deal. That's always, and what's the worst that'll happen? They say no. Well, at least you tried. Different ways, and again, $10 here, $20 there, it all adds up. You can use that to support other organizations that that need that to do other things. But that's something you can do there. And then setting savings goals. This is a tough one for a lot of people. Do I tell stories? Do I not tell stories? It talks about emergencies, vacations, retirement. Talk about that $1,000, and most people today, they do not plan for tomorrow. I've always been a chess kind of person, so I think 20 years out in the future. I think okay, what's going to happen when this happens? What happens here? And it seems like the majority of people out there do not do that. They sit there and they go, whatever happens, happens, and that's just the way it is, and they spend their money. I was watching a guy that I know tonight, and he's going to be homeless here pretty soon, and he admits he had a 6-figure income, and he blew it all on the latest and greatest stuff, and then the economy took a downturn, and he's going to be homeless here pretty shortly. It's unfortunately, it's reality, and again, as the men of the household, it's the buck stops with us, and this is just something that we've got to sit down and do that. And again, we'll talk about ways to do it, but when you set up goals, and it doesn't have to be these crazy gargantuan nutty ideas where you're going to save $1 million a week. It could be $5 a month. That's the beauty of it compounds and gets better, and we'll talk about ways to do that. But once you start doing it, you don't even really miss it. but you really will want it when calamity strikes and you've got to buy a new water heater or repair a car or get your kid out of jail or whatever comes up and hits you, life's events. You want to have things. You want to have some money in the savings account and not live paycheck to paycheck. Public resources. Public libraries. I mean, I see people buying books that that they don't even read. Go to the library. I mean, your taxes pay for it. Community events, recreational activities. Check out your local community and see if you're that bored. And we'll talk about ways to fight the boredom. But if you're that bored, you should be finding other ways to connect with people.
Jeremy
and do different
says,
things.
For loans, make smaller payments more often. Reduces the amount of principal quicker and also your interest. Not all loans are compatible, so ask your lender.
Yeah, I mean, there are. It depends on if it's a DSI, daily simple interest. I know a little thing about loans, but I would contact if there's a way to pay every 2 weeks. I mean, there's the biweekly program that if you have a mortgage that you can do that does pay down your loan quicker. You can look at the amortization chart and it'll show you how you can pay a house off in 5, 10, 20, or not 20, but 5, 10 some odd years early by just paying half a payment every 2 weeks instead of one payment per month, because you pay two extras at the end of the year, or I'm sorry, an extra one at the end of the year. And there's different there, and there's different types of loan programs out there that you can see what your lender can do. But yeah, paying down your debt as quickly as possible and setting it all up is the way to go. And I guess I'll give a kind of a thing here. I mean, I don't want people to look at me and go, this guy, knows something, or I'm better than anybody, because I'm a redneck from Missouri, always have been, always will be. It's where I grew up, and I make no bones about it. I remember when I turned 18 years old, I was a man, wasn't going to listen to anybody, I was going to do it on my own. I went and bought my first truck. Let's see, what it was a 90s. It was brand new Chevy S10. I paid list price for it, and if it was even out in the finance industry, you're gonna just choke when you hear this part. I bought the truck. I paid list price for it. This is how smart and adulty I was, and my interest rate was 19.95% interest. They asked me what payment I could afford, which, by the way, you're always going to hear that. They're going to ask you, what kind of a payment can you afford? Your answer, you can't. What's the cash price? But I was young and dumb, and I went, I can afford like $200 a month. They actually raised the interest rate to 19.95% interest to get to that $200 payment. And here's the kicker. This is the worst part. I want to make sure the camera's on me so you can see the look in my eyes as I say this. And it was a rule of 78ths. Now, the people that are in that understand finance are probably laughing their asses off, which you should be, or they're going, "Oh my God, I cannot believe this numbnut did this." Or he's a moron, or whatever name you want to come up with. I was stupid. But for those that don't know what a Rule 78 says, it was 78 or 72s. It's been so long I can't remember. But what that means is and I had a 5-year loan. This was back in 1990. I know, dumb. But the way it works is with a Rule 70, it had to be 70 seconds. Anyway, what they do is they say the truck price is $10,000. I'm sorry, I paid nine. Was it nine? I think it was. I can't. Say it's $10,000. What they do is they basically amortize the loan out over the 5 years, and they tack on the 5 years worth of interest. Let's just pretend that's $5,000. I know my math is off, and don't get your amortization schedules out. So what they do is they take the $10,000, they take the $5,000, they add them together, and it's $15,000. So when you make your first payment, all you pay is the interest. So every payment you make, you're only paying interest until you've paid all the interest off, and then you start paying down the principal. Yes, that's how stupid I was. And after I got hosed on that, I swore I would never get screwed over again with finance, and that's one of the reasons why I started reading books on it and doing everything I could to make sure that I wasn't going to get screwed over. But that's, that has, I think that has to happen to people. They pay the dumb tax and they go, oh crap, okay, I got screwed over. I'm not going to let that happen again. At least that's in theory what you hope happens. But that's what I did, and it was dumb. And I tell that story. I wear it like a badge of honor. I'm like, look, I was dumb. I did something stupid financially. It hurt. I learned from it, and I'm not going to let it happen again. And then I, moved on, because then I got married the first time. But anyway, I know we got off on a tangent there. Let's continue on here. Let's see. There we go. All right, plan major purchases. Duh. Electronics, appliances, furniture, all that stuff. Wait till they have the Black Friday sale deal, Cyber Mondays. Wait until there's going to be a sale on it. And do your research. Slickdeals.net is a great site. There are others out there, but you want to definitely do your research before you just willy-nilly go out and buy stuff, because you're going to overspend. And again, in your lifetime, you're only going to have so much money, and it all depends on where it goes. Finding ways to cut corners and do things cheaper. Kind of a funny story. I'm probably going to get whacked in the head over this from Mrs. Ward tonight. But when she and I first got together, that first Christmas, she was all like, we're going to go to the store and we're going to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at her like she's from a different planet. And I'm like, no, that's not how I'm doing it. And, I said, how much, think we should spend on the kids and yada, yada, yada. And I said, okay, this is what the kids are wanting. So I went ahead and did my thing, did my slick deals, did all that stuff, and had, the 50,000, or it felt like 50,000 Amazon boxes delivered through all my sites and stuff, and getting the good deals. And the kids had a great Christmas, and it cost a hell of a lot less. And she learned a few things. She was like, oh my God, because she would have spent, I can't remember the numbers, but she would have spent $1,000 on the whole thing. And I spent with me doing it my way, it was $500. So we had $500 to spend elsewhere. That's, figuring out ways to save money. I mean, we have Google. We have all these different ways to do research and get the best deal and not overpay. You don't need to go to the nice, because your refrigerator is going to look the same as mine, even if I got mine at a warehouse or something, or did it through a different avenue. No one's going to know or care. So it's just something to think about. You're not unfortunately impressing anybody with buying it at this great expensive place where they give you tea and crumpets. All right, paying off high interest debt. Talking to I think, who was it? It was Jeremy. Jeremy, paying off the high interest debts. I will talk about this here in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, you've got to get a handle on the debt that you have. I mean, one is just coming to terms. You can't put the bill away and just forget about it. It's gonna compound interest. It's gonna accrue interest, and it's gonna come back around. It's going to happen. It's best to call, negotiate, get the best deal you can, and then start and get a plan together to start paying it down. There are companies, and some are reputable, most are not, but some are reputable, that they will call on your behalf, and they already have agreements with these different credit card companies and other companies where they will negotiate on your behalf and then tell you, you need to pay $100 a month or whatever, and you'll pay it out over this period of time. I personally just recommend dealing with reality, making the calls yourself, dealing with it, and getting that plan. And we'll talk about some specifics here in a bit, but getting in there and paying off your debt, because once you're debt free, and again, another personal story is being debt free is one of the most wonderful feelings in the world. I talk to my wife. I mean, I'm not debt free at this point in my life. I was about 15 years ago. That was before my now ex-wife, took everything from me and all that. And I had to start over. But I had a paid off house. I had money in the bank, had all those things. And laying in your bed and where that you own every brick in that house is just one of the greatest feelings in the world. And you don't feel scared. You sit there and go, if I lost my job tomorrow, I can hang out for a while. I've got the expenses. You lose your job now, you're like, oh my God, rent's due on the 1st and car payments due on the 1st. And if I don't pay this, then, it's added stress that you just don't need. Once you get out of debt and you get some money saved, that money saved is security. And I know a lot of the guys and girls that are watching the show aren't in that situation, unfortunately, because they're paying child support, alimony, lawyer fees, and all that. But it's something to strive to. And the hope I can give you, at least from my perspective, is even when I was going through my own version of hell, and I had to give away everything I had in order to get my boys. I wait. You know what? One day I will be debt free again, and that thought. Knowing that was going to happen and it's out to the future, that helps me kind of get through the day. I mean, you may have be in the middle of it. You may be getting an attorney fee every month of $1, $2, $5, $10,000, and you're like, when the hell's it going to end? It will end at some point. And you just got to, once you got a plan together on how you're going to go ahead and knock through everything, it becomes more manageable. That's kind of what I'm kind of getting at. Let's see, shopping around for insurance. This is almost one I was kind of contemplating. Do I take it off the list, because at least here in Texas we have the highest insurance rates around at this point. I've done everything I can. I've raised my my deductibles. I've shopped around. I've done everything I can, and it's just with all the things that are happening. Unfortunately, the weather that we've been having has contributed to it a bit. And then, unfortunately, we have a lot of folks that should not be driving, causing issues that raise the rates, and of course, there's making money and all that stuff. But it's become harder and harder. But it's worth taking that time out to shop around for insurance and see where you can get a better deal. Like I do the MileWise program. I work from home. I don't drive. There's no reason for me to be, paying for a person that puts 1,000 miles a week on their car, and that has helped out. So you try to find little ways to cut your expenses where you can. It's just things you need to look at. Automating savings contributions. This is what we were talking about earlier, kind of coming around here, and we'll talk about here more in a bit. But automatic transfers from your accounts. Now, if you work for a larger company, most of them will have something that you can say, look, I want $5, $10, $100, whatever your number is, and you want to have it set to where every year, 6 months, whatever, you increase that number because you want to get better at it. But you can have it automatically diverted from your paycheck into a savings account or something that you don't even really look at, but those are that takes the pain out of it. Because if you're you get your paycheck and you're like, all right, I got to do this, I got to transfer, you're going to find ways to forget it. It's going to hurt. There's always going to be an emergency. The kid's going to need shoes. Stuff's going to happen. But once that is done automatically, you do tend to forget that that money's coming out, and you want to do that. Now they talk about it's pay yourself first. Okay, if that's the way you need to look at it in order where it makes sense. Great, pay yourself first. One way of looking at it, it makes sense to go ahead and do that. But pay yourself first. But start saving money, even if it's $1, $5, $10 a week, month, whatever. At least you've got some money sitting out there, and then when emergencies happen, you can then pull from it. Okay, moving into recommended learning. If you haven't caught on to the different things I've been talking about, and you're going, this guy sounds a lot like some other dude. No, that's not Jimmy Smith from The Big Show. That is Dave Ramsey. I've made jokes for years about how I was a Dave Ramsey guy before Dave Ramsey was even around or even had heard of him. I was doing the principles that he talks about decades before I even heard of him. And there's other people out there, and of course there's arguments back and forth. But he has a program called the Baby Steps, and you do them in order. And I kind of wanted to, if you haven't heard it, go out to DaveRamsey.com. That part's free. There's a number of free services out there. I'll do podcasts. Don't watch this one before you watch his. But I actually listen to his YouTube show fairly often, and just kind of hear what people's mistakes, what they're doing to try to get ahead, the different things that are coming down the pipe, and it kind of gets me in that mode of trying to save money and better myself. But a huge fan of Dave Ramsey. Can't recommend enough. But on his baby steps, you've seen this number before, saving $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. And again, as we talked about before, a large percentage of Americans don't even have that. They're living paycheck plus whatever, like they're broke on the Monday before payday, and if something were to hiccup, they're done for. Getting that $1,000 in a savings account, somewhere where you can have fast access, don't put it into a CD or something like that, but in a savings account, that's going to give you a little bit of peace of mind. So in the event your water heater breaks, your car breaks down, or whatever, you've got that. Because let's look at the alternative. So the alternative is you're driving to work and then you get a flat tire, and tires cost say $400 for all, and you run over a couple nails. And you can either go to your emergency fund, because that would be a true emergency, and use that money and then move about your day, and you're not freaking out. You're like, well, it happened, here we go, let's move on. Or you go ahead and go, oh my God, and you're at the car dealership, or of course you're going, well, I was going to say, you should be going to like Walmart or Sam's, but you're going to the dealership, and they were going to tell you to get the $2,000 whatever, and they'll put it on an easy credit plan for you at 20% interest. And then you're sinking further and further into debt. And a lot of times you're sitting there going, well, I have two choices. I've got no money. They're offering me this. I got to get to work. I got to be able to drive and pick the kids up and do this and do that. Well, I guess I got to do it. Well, you've just put yourself further in debt. Having that $1,000 emergency fund, that gives you a little bit of peace of mind. It kind of keeps you from falling further and further into that trap. The next one, paying off all your debt, except the house. And, I know he's got some things back and forth in that, but using the debt snowball. And a lot of this is psychological. What he talks about is, say you've got, say 3 credit cards, and each of them, say, have $5,000, or, well, one has 1,000, one has 5,000, one has 10,000. And they're roughly the same interest rate. And again, it works even if they're different rates. But when you pay off that $1,000, it's a psychological thing, and it's that debt snowball. So you take your smallest debt, regardless of interest rate or anything else, and you pay that off. And then you see that, hey, I did this. And then you look at the next one, and it's a step. And you're like, well, it's not so bad. But if you look at that first bill for 10 grand, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to knock that one out. It's going to be a year, 2 years, whatever it is. In order to pay that bill off, and then you're going to lose interest. You're going to go, hey, cool, I want to go to Disney World, or I need that new car, or I need this, or I need that. And then, you're right, and then you give up and you right back at it. But if you pay off that small bill, you get that psychological, ooh, this gets exciting. And it does. I know there are a number of people out there who don't believe me, but it does get exciting to say, ooh, I paid that off. I paid a bill off about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, all right, next one. And again, a lot of you guys that are dealing in the divorce world, and you've had your world ripped away from you, you've got attorney fees, you're keeping the lights on, you got the different bills, and you probably have went into credit card debt. This is the time to look at reality and go, all right, we're going to nail this thing. I'm going to, finish this part off as quickly as I can, and then start that debt snowball and get everything paid off and move forward. And, I kind of want to tell a story. So when I was much younger and I was going to college, my first class, I sat down with my bachelor's degree process, and I charted out, because I wanted to graduate before the end of 1999. I did not want to go into the year 2000. That's how old I am, not having my Bachelor of Science degree. So I sat there and I charted out how many classes and all that I would have to take in order to get there over that 3.5 year period. And in order to do that, I had to do X, Y, and Z. And I worked the plan. So every time I was tired or I was this, I worked the plan. And once you have a written plan, it becomes so much easier. Had I just went, I'll eventually get there and blah, 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 I'd probably still be, arguing or saying, oh, I'm gonna graduate one day. Getting that plan together and doing that desk and the little victories, I got my 60 hours and I got my associate's degree. And I was like, yeah, I did it. Boom. Next. I'm on the dean's list. And those things just kept building. And that's kind of what I want for you guys is when you get that stuff written down and figure out it's going to take me 3 years. If I pay $100 a month, it's going to take me 3 years. Have it up on the refrigerator. and start marking that stuff through every month. Bam, I paid $100. Bam, I paid $100. Ooh, I got an additional $20 from so and so. I'm paying $120 this month. Mark that off. Oh, I can pay it off, 3 months earlier because that happened. And actually, going off on a whole other thing, when you start looking at debt and finances that way, you start seeing the world. It's like the Matrix. You start seeing the world for what it is. So before, you would say, you know what, I'm going to buy that shirt for $20. Which, is there a shirt out there for $20 anymore? Probably not. But you go, I'm going to buy that shirt for $20. I'm going to put it on my credit card. And then you pay the monthly interest on it, you pay the monthly minimum on it for the next 2 years. That $20 shirt costs $50, and I know my numbers are off, but I hope you get the point. And you go, that shirt didn't cost me $20; it cost me $50 because I paid on it, and that's what credit card companies are hoping for. But when you go in there and you pay cash, you're saying I'm paying $20. It's $20. It's done, and you're gonna save money. You're gonna start looking at things differently. And for some of you that are watching this are going, what the hell is he talking about? It probably won't make sense until you start doing it. And then you're going to look back and go, I get it. I mean, there were a lot of people that I've counseled and talked to over the years that thought the exact same thing. And then they got into that mode and started doing it. And they're like, I get it now. And then again, that's what I want for y'all. I want you guys to get out of debt, to better yourselves, and to get that financial secure future, so you're not worrying about what's going to happen next. These things that happen in the world are going to be a nosebleed to you, like, this happened or that happened, not a big deal, I'm able to handle it. You're not looking to, freaking out every 5 minutes. The next one is saving 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. That's on top of your $1,000 emergency fund that is for true emergencies. So your 3 to 6 month expenses are primarily if you lose your job. So you want to figure out how much it costs you to live after you've paid off all your debt, and you don't want to do these out of order. Some people they want to get that 3 to 6 months out there and then pay off all their debt. No, when you're grinding and that debt snowball, you start hating that debt in a positive way, and you just start nailing. If you've got $10,000 or $4,000 or whatever in the bank, you're like, I can take my foot off the gas. I feel good. Paying off your debt and having outside that $1,000 emergency fund, it makes you hungry. It makes you like, all right, I'm doing the next thing. I'm doing the next thing. I'm not gonna sit around. I'm not gonna sit on my butt. You get pissed off at that debt. You become a pissed off parent. You get pissed off at that debt, and you find a way to get it done. But after you get all your debt paid off, except for your house, you save the 3 to 6 months and have that ready to go. So if you do lose your job or something happens, you're not freaking out. You're not going to take that job that you don't want to take. And actually, I'm going to talk about that here in a bit too, a little more story time. After you've got that 3 to 6 months, investing 15% of your household income in retirement. This is something, I would argue, and again, depends on how you want to do it, research it on your own. Until those things are done, I really wouldn't be investing in retirement until all of your debts are paid off, because, you're going to lose money and interest and all that stuff, and you want to get there. But everyone's different. But investing 50%, that's actually a minimum. You want to, while you're rocking along, you still have your house that you're paying off, but you want to invest 15%. And I would look at calculators. There are a lot of free calculators out there that will show you where you'll be at retirement, and a little sneak preview into y'all's future. I'm sure most of you are younger than me, but in the year 2035, the Social Security is going to take a 20% cut across the top. So whatever you think you're getting, 20% off of that, and of course interest and all those other things, inflation, are going to happen while it's going on. So you want to have as much as you can in that retirement account. And also, when you're playing with those calculators, and there's a lot of free ones out there, you can see putting that 15% in as a minimum. You can see what that's going to get you on your nest egg at the very end, because that's what you need to have. But you want to invest as much as you can. If you can't do 15%, at least, at the very least, and we talked about this a little bit ago, put in what your company matches, because you're throwing away free money. If you get 3%, 6%, 10%, whatever is a company match, do whatever you can to at least get that, because that is free money sitting on the table. I don't even know what else to say to that. Saving for your children's college fund. Little stuff there. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, I started a college fund for both my boys, And then my ex-wife, when she didn't want to do that. She wanted to spend the money, and I went no. And then, of course, she decided to divorce me because I was a horrible ogre, whatever, man. And I'd only put in maybe $1,000 or roughly 1,000, and I didn't get a chance to put a penny in afterwards just because everything was going on. But that's one of the things I wish I could have done. I've unfortunately had to go into debt for my oldest son for his college degree, and there was some this conversation back and forth on should you should you pay for your kids' college at the expense of your own well-being and stuff like that. I mean, that's a conversation for a different time. But if you can get these other steps done, saving for your kids' college fund, even with the increased the rising cost of college, would make sense if you're led to do that. That would be just something to look at. And again, I'm going with his baby steps. Paying off your home early. As I mentioned earlier, I'll tell you right now, I at 35, 36, I had paid my first house off in full, and I will never be able to describe the feeling I had laying in bed. I sat there and I just dreamed of I own every brick in this house. It was a fantastic feeling. Now, again, it was stolen from me a few years later, and I had to start all over again, and we wonder why I hate my ex-spouse. But there's no better feeling in the world because that home is such a secure thing that hopefully no one can take away from you. No reason not to get married. But next thing is, of course, build. Again, these are his things. I'm sure most people probably wouldn't be able to get there, but building wealth and give. It's good to be able to build wealth as you get older and have that and be able to start giving it away and doing nice things. I mean, helping out other organizations, getting involved in charities. It's a good feeling to be able to give out or give other people funds, wealth, and all that stuff. And it's just, again, there's not a whole lot to say there. It's good to have that nest egg and then be able to give it out freely and not feel the pinch. And it's good things there. Moving into kind of the other ways to make money. This is a few more story times, but everyone's like, all right, how are we going to do this? You got your one job, you got bills. What do you do? Quite frankly, second or third job. Deliver pizzas, virtual assistant, pet sitting, dog walking, just to name a couple of them. Little story time here for you. When I was going through my divorce 10 years ago, I was 40, 41 at that time. Just to give you an idea of my pedigree, I do office work. I have a Bachelor of Science degree. I graduated cum laude. I've got certifications out the wazoo. Blah 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 blah. I'm a smart guy from what people tell me at times, and I took jobs delivering bounce houses. So on my free time, I would take these huge bounce houses and deliver them on weekends or not, probably during the weekends when I was free, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. But I would deliver them, set them up, pick them up, and return them back, clean them, and all that. I've done U-Haul phone service stuff. So when you call and you're moving out or something, and you got to call customer service, I was that person that was there, and I worked 20, 30, 40 hours doing that. I've done all kinds of things to earn money, trying to figure out, what do I do next? I've donated plasma. I've donated blood. I mean, that's the lengths I went to in order to provide for my family, even while I was going through these things. So kind of where I'm at is it's not, I work my 8 hours and I'm done. If you're in debt or you're having financial issues, find ways, and it may not just be this. It's not, the pity party, whatever. You've got to find a way to do it. It sucked. I had my entire world ripped away from me, and I was like, I've got to get this done, and I took those steps in order to get it done. And there was no, I'm too good for this. I was, digging ditches. I was doing stuff. I remember one guy. I delivered his bounce house. I was setting it up, and he came out and started talking to me. He's like, you don't seem like the average guy that does this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this. I'm going through that. And, he made some comment. I'm like, oh, no, I have a college degree. I do this and this and this. And he's like, oh, do you know? And he, tested me a little bit. And we kind of talked back and forth. He's like, "Oh my God," and I explained to him why I was doing it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that there should be nothing beneath you. Providing for your family should be the thing that we do. And if you've got to get a quote demeaning job or want something that is supposedly beneath you, then that's just what you do, and that's you suck it up and you get it done. I've had so many people tell me about they're having issues. That's one of the reasons why I don't take a lot of responses or do stuff. Is I've tried to help people in the past, and all they want to do is whine and complain and moan, and they can't do this and they won't do this, and they give me a million reasons why they can't do stuff. And I just I'm not here to deal with people's excuses. I'm here to find solutions. And sometimes that means digging a ditch to earn some money. And that's what you got to do. But another one here is learning how to do it yourself. Oh my God, get me started on this one. Now I'm going to turn this into a bitch session. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a Gen X thing or a me thing or the fact that I like to figure stuff out. But I got so many people out there. I mean, the marketplace, I see all the people, I need someone to, replace my faucet, or I need someone to do this or do that. We have the internet. We have YouTube. We have so many ways to learn how to do stuff ourselves. We're like, people that are whining about being able to pay their bills are sitting there going, I will pay someone like $1,000 to do something that they could learn how to do themselves. And while it doesn't work across that, and I don't want to hear anybody whining about, well, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. You can learn how to do it. You can figure it out and do it. I am no better than anyone else out there. I am a thick-headed Polak from a little shit town in Portage de Sioux, Missouri. I grew up with nothing, and I figured it out. I am no better than anyone else out there. And when I hear people that sitting there whining about that they can't do this, they can't do that, it pisses me off, because I'm like, yeah, you can, you just don't want to. And that may not be you specifically, but I'm using some generalities here. But it pisses me off that you have people that instead of learning how to do it themselves, they pay money that they could be saving or using for other things, and it annoys the shit out of me. I'll try to get off of that because I want to keep it positive. Use hobbies to earn money. I'm a tech nerd, so like I build websites in my spare time. I mean, I do a lot of free stuff for people, obviously, for different charities and stuff like that. But I do sell some of my services at a deep discount. But I do that. I sell, like I've gotten into 3D printing as an example, and I build 3D stuff and then I sell it and try to find different ways. I find different ways to sell things to earn money. Some ideas here: handmade goods, photography, teaching. If you have a special knack or a niche or something that you whatever God-given talent you have, find out what that is, and then try to use that to make money. There's lots of sites out there: TaskRabbit, GigSmart, Thumbtack. You can go into your marketplace and try to figure stuff out. But find different hobbies that you can then translate into making money. That's one way of doing stuff. Swapping skills. This goes back to the olden days where I knew how to change a tire and you know how to fix a faucet, and we swapped places. The barter system. I would say, hey, if you need your car worked on, find some guy that does electricity and swap. And again, these are not do it tomorrow, but these are just things to think about. So instead of paying somebody to do something for you or buy some or whatever, offer your sweat equity in order to get that, or just trade services. I mean, that is a legitimate way of doing it. It seems like we've lost that nowadays. People are like, I will just pay you to do something. Find ways to do that. Save your money for other things. I've talked about the donating blood and plasma. I've done it. Again, when I was going through my little shenanigans, I was there as often as I possibly could, donating blood and plasma, and that was a way to earn money. You do what you got to do. Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, all that, those driving services, and I know there's arguments back and forth about how money works and all that, and sometimes you make a lot of money and sometimes you don't. I'm just, again, throwing these ideas out there. You take them for what they're worth and run with it. It may apply to you, it may not, but that's definitely a thing to look at. online surveys and market research. You got, Swagbucks, Survey Junkie, Vindale Research, other Googleable locations where instead of sitting there looking at boobies or looking at cat videos, you can be doing surveys and making some amount of money doing that. And you can rent and sell stuff. Look through your possessions. Is there stuff that you can sell? And I'm going to tell my wife right now, do not look behind me. That's my ain't going to happen. I don't give a crap what happens. I had to fight hard to get every one of those Transformers. They're my babies, and I will not get rid of them. But if you have stuff, put it on the marketplace. Try to sell it. Find ways, and then don't blow the money. Save it, use it to pay off a debt or something like that. But if you have something that can be rented, rent it. Try to make some money doing that. So those are some ideas. Be interested if anybody throws any ideas of different ways that they've tried to make extra money that has been successful. Thoughts, ideas. I mean, what it boils down to really is that you want to find, documenting where you're at. That's your reality. If you're $100,000 in debt, that's your reality. If you're $20,000 in debt, or if you have no debt, whatever. How do you get to your goals? You document it. You figure out a plan, and then you work the plan. That's pretty much how that works. I don't know. I would just be interested to hear, what others have done in order to save money. I'm assuming probably some of the things I've talked about, people are like, "Yep, I've donated blood, plasma, you name it." Just be interested to hear. If not, I'll just kind of move on. I'll keep the comments open. So if you come up with something, I kind of want to keep moving along here, but. At the end of the day, times are getting tough. You got to find ways to cinch the belt up. You got to find ways to save money. I've talked about, kind of where in the United States, where we're sitting at financially, what needs to be done in order to get yourself over that. One, establish your baseline, figure out where you're at, what your financial picture is, what your goals are, and then start working on a plan. And the people that have followed me, watched me, know me personally, talk to me, they know that this is the stuff I say every single day: is figure out where you're at, the reality. From there, figure out where you want to go, and then develop your incremental plan in order to get there. I know times are tough. We got a lot, job losses. We've got higher inflation. A lot of guys and girls have the court issues, got child support, all that stuff. You've got to look at that. That's the reality of it, and figure out ways to move forward and move that needle forward. That's kind of, a lot of this is just getting that done. Trying to think of anything else. Really. Well,
Jeremy says.
Oh.
October 15th, 20-year mortgage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The 10, 15. Yeah. Dave Ramsey says, you're going to actually, I get a lot of my stuff from Dave Ramsey. People should not get anything more than a 15-year mortgage. If it's over 15, that should be a no-go. You should have your 20%. So, I could spend probably about 10 hours talking about the mortgage industry and how it works. You got your conventional loans where you put down your 20%, or you have to pay PMI or MIP depending on which state you're in, which is mortgage protection insurance, and that is lost money every single month. So if you do your 3% down or your 5% down or no down or whatever, and you're under that 20%, you're going to be paying MIP, PMI, which is a waste of 50 to 100 to 200, depends on the loan, but you're basically wasting that money every single month. But if you can save that 20% down and get that done, then you're going to avoid that. There's so many different things. I could talk about not escrowing your account. It's a waste of time and money and effort, but you got to be disciplined enough to handle the insurance and the taxes and all that. There's so many things in that, VA loans. If you join the military, be a veteran, you get a VA loan. There's some definite benefits there. I could spend, and again, the mortgage, your house is probably, for most people, the single largest expense. And that's just an area that a lot of people make a lot of mistakes in, unfortunately. But yeah, Jeremy is right. Ideally a 10-year, ideally a no loan, but ideally a 10 to 15-year loan would be the max. 20 is would be a no-go, but I get it. But yeah, you want to get that, and then really work to pay that loan off, and we can talk about how interest and all that fun stuff works, and taxes and all that. That would turn into a 50-hour thing. I've got way too much background in the mortgage industry. Let's just put it that way. We'd be talking about it for quite a while. But thank you all for watching. I want you to be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel. Keeps the algorithm going, gets everything moving along. Let's know I'm doing at least a halfway decent job. I'm gonna work on the things that did not work this go around. I'm actually a little surprised that certain things didn't work. I had a couple cool automation things that were supposed to work, and they didn't, but this is how it goes. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, bearing with me and all that. And again, I'm still trying to find a home for the show, the timing. We're going to see how this does and just try to figure out a good time. But anyway, want to thank you all. Have a great evening, and we will talk to you all later.